And welcome back to the Hot Lap. We are talking mainly Ferrari and Red Bull news today, going into the Australian Grand Prix. This time next week, we'll have known who have won, Max Verstappen. But what's interesting also, we'll have known the order. Who's fast and who's not. Is Mercedes actually going to recover? But as I said, pretty much all about the Red Bull and Ferrari team here. So we've got Hamilton given Ferrari assurances. We'll get into that. We also have motivation potentially being questioned by Damon Hill in relation to the Red Bull team because, hey, they keep on winning. It's a non-stop Red Bull train. Jock Clear saying some interesting things about Ferrari's potential Japan form and complaint made to the FIA. Well, there's an update there. The FIA having given us an update, but it's not really much of an update. It's just that we're not going to comment on it. Yeah. Oh well. And last but not least, although I've not done the picture for, is Adrian Newey talking about Red Bull's big risk. I just realised that. So anyway, let's carry on with the show. Let's talk about Lewis Hamilton and this Ferrari assurances over his atmosphere, or the atmosphere, going into his big 2025 move. So Fisichella, he did drive for Ferrari. Well, 2009, he left Force India, drove for Ferrari, and he does a lot of Ferrari work now, I think, in their sports cars. And he has assured that Lewis Hamilton will feel in the family at Ferrari from the off when he arrives at the team next season. And why wouldn't he? They're paying him a lot of money. There's a lot of hope. Now, formerly a Scuderia driver himself, Fisichella knows this unique feeling of representing the prancing horse in Formula One and believes Hamilton is going to receive a warm welcome when he arrives in Maranello next year for 2025. Lewis Hamilton, though, needs to be very focused when arriving at Ferrari. This is the report from planetf1.com. But the anticipation for next season is already high. As the sport's most successful team, they still are, despite Red Bull and Mercedes trying their best, they're going to link up with the most statistically successful driver in history, with Hamilton admitting he is fulfilling a childhood dream in becoming a Ferrari driver. But Fisichella added that he doesn't believe it's going to be all plain sailing for the 7-time world champion, who will face one of the sport's brightest talents. That's the man himself, Ferrari's protege, let's say, Charles Leclerc. So, who is already, and as we know, Charles, who has already been in the team since 2019 and been in the Ferrari Academy even before that. So while this can lead to a difficult introduction, it's going to be testing for Lewis Hamilton. Fisichella believes the welcoming atmosphere Hamilton will get at Maranello will override that pretty quickly, though he will need to spend time getting to know people within the Ferrari base, as is fairly normal. The big test is going to be Charles Leclerc. Having said that, the one caveat is he's already been tested with George Russell, and George Russell is no slouch. I keep reminding people, he's the man that beat Lando Norris to the F2 champion. And also, Leclerc is also an F2 champion. And a lot of people have suggested that Charles Leclerc will potentially be better in qualifying than Hamilton. Because despite, I think, Hamilton's massive run of poles, in part, like Verstappen now, due to a very, very good car, I always think his race pace is what sets him apart. I mean, Bottas, who I don't think is no slouch in qualifying, managed to beat him a few times, as did Rosberg. I don't think Hamilton's known for his amazing consistently qualifying, although he has done amazing laps. Remember that one in Singapore. So it's going to be interesting to see, I think, in the races where these two are preserving the tyres. And he's going to have a few races at the very least to get used to that Ferrari car after being with Mercedes powered engines at the very least for pretty much the whole of his Formula One career. So next up, we've got motivation being questioned from Red Bull. Let's get rid of these ads. So this is again from planetf1.com, but it's Damon Hill who's raising the motivation concern after what can only be described as a very dominant start with 2-1-2s by Red Bull. So the 96 champion, he's pretty much said that Red Bull must be feeling great when it comes to their on-track performances after a meteoric start, ominous start to 2024. Red Bull were pretty clear publicly in stating that their expectation that the F1 grid are going to converge for 2024 after achieving, in the end, what was comfortable back-to-back titles. But Max Verstappen has picked up where he left off, much to the sadness of anyone that isn't a Red Bull or Max Verstappen fan, to chase that fourth title in succession. But Damon Hill has said, where's the motivation? So Verstappen has led a pair of Red Bull 1-2 finishes across the line in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia to reaffirm the team's leading status as no one's going to beat us. Yeah, but Red Bull have dropped just 1 point so far. 1 point, and that was Charles Leclerc who claimed that fastest lap in Saudi Arabia. Having speaking on the F1 Nation podcast, available from Apple, I think Spotify, and well, all other podcasts, Hill said, in relation to Williams' dominant 1996 campaign, which Damon Hill won, he said the motivation can be tough to find when starting a season so strong, as did Hill. He said it's nice when you get a 1-2 to start off your season and your Constructors' Championship, so it's all looking and feeling great, he suggested. But he said the funny thing is, though, that it's quite difficult to get streaming emotion, because when you come second or you get beaten, you don't like it, you want to change the situation, there's a lot of motivation to change. Whereas, Hill says, when you win, you kind of, I know, that they will be trying still very hard to find improvements and gains, because they'll have to, but at the same time, where's the motivation? And he went on to saying the only motivation is that you're going to get caught. Well, let's hope so. And if you're looking over your shoulder and you can't see anyone that's going to catch you, then you almost go on holiday. Yeah. Okay, Damon. Fair enough. I mean, I think Red Bull, I know they've got a lot going on, and I know their senior leaders, let's say, their senior management, what the hell is going on there? But the actual team, absolutely amazing, doing an absolutely sterling job. Both drivers, I think Perez has almost been faultless, give or take, not qualifying that high up, but at the end of the day, on the Sunday, where it counts, he's finished in second. So I don't think you can even fault Sergio Perez. And a lot of people, including myself, predicted he's going to fall off that wagon. He has not done yet, albeit he hasn't exactly challenged Max Verstappen, but I think Red Bull are going to be happy with that, aren't they? They don't really want that. So Jock Claire has been saying some interesting things. Hello. Well, we got some fashion alert here. Oh my gosh. So, well, Jock Claire has not been saying some interesting things, because I'm trying to delete this blinking ad. Okay, so let's try again there. This is from ScuderiaFans.com. And Jock Claire reveals Ferrari will discover many things at Suzuka amid the SF 2024 development potential. So until 2023, it was Monty, I'm going to get the name wrong, I can only apologise, but it's going to be Montmello that was revealing the track of the World Championship, the first to provide a credible and reliable hierarchy of the grid due to its completeness. However, this year the calendar's brought forward the journey of teams and drivers to one of the most anticipated tracks. Yes, after Australia, we are going to Suzuka. And it's theoretically among the teams in search of identity. This has probably been translated. Ferrari is not one of them. The SF24 has been clearly the second best car, but Jock Claire has said is convinced that the Japanese Grand Prix will tell Ferrari a lot about the direction that they've taken. He said, given the structure of this year's calendar, I believe that after 4 races, we will have a fairly precise idea. He says Suzuka is in fact an exceptional circuit to measure a car. I mean, you've got those S's, those absolutely amazing S's in that first sector, which, similar to Saudi Arabia, are, you really need confidence is key, which is also interesting that Mercedes are they going to struggle? I mean, that's the interesting thing. So Suzuka is in fact an exceptional circuit to measure the car, said Jock Claire. They're on that type of circuit will discover many things. And finally, Jock Claire highlighted all the other areas in which Ferrari has progressed. The SF24 is better in terms of downforce, power, lightweight, drivability, and as for the latter aspect, it was a significant step forward made in the winter. Both drivers are much more comfortable with the car and its increased predictability, and now they're more confident when they are behind someone and the wind conditions change, so to speak. So that's going to be interesting. So watch out for Ferrari in, I think, 3 weeks from now when we have the Japanese Grand Prix. It's going to be weird watching the Japanese Grand Prix so early on, isn't it? What's interesting though, because it was at the end of the year, we'll really see how much the teams improved over the winter, because when you go to Bahrain you have a year, for example, until you go back to Bahrain, but here it's been, let's just say, a lot less than a year. So The complaint made to the FIA, we reported on it yesterday, the alleged complaint, so Christian Horner's accuser, let's say, has allegedly, well, I think allegedly, because the FIA aren't saying much, but we believe the BBC reports that they've made a complaint to the FIA. And here the FIA responds to the report it received in relation to this Horner accuser. So the person whose allegations against Christian Horner were investigated, as we know, and dismissed by Red Bull. We keep on saying that. And there are supposedly 2 other reports concerning Horner were also made to the FIA Ethics and Compliance Hotline. Sounds like something out of 1984, doesn't it? In a statement to racefans.net, where I'm reading this from, the FIA said all complaints to their ethics committee are handled with strict confidentiality. Now, at the FIA, inquiries and complaints are received and managed by the compliance officer and the ethics committee where appropriate. Both bodies, it said, operate autonomously, separately, guaranteeing strict confidentiality throughout the process. Now, as a consequence, and in general, we are able to confirm the receipt of any specific complaint, and it is unlikely, we're unable to confirm the receipt, and it's unlikely that we will be able to provide any further comment on the complaints that we may receive from parties. And as we know, Horner has consistently denied the wrongdoing, but don't think we're going to get anything more from it. And before the investigation concluded, though, the FIA issued a statement saying they're committed to upholding the highest standards of integrity, fairness and inclusivity within the sport, but wouldn't comment any further. So Ben Sulayem did interestingly say at the Bahrain Grand Prix that this situation was damaging the sport, though. So, yeah. Interesting. I mean, it's interesting stuff. So last but not least, in terms of the story, I forgot to make the headline header. So Adrian Newey, yeah, he's admitted that there's been huge risk on Red Bull future. This from GPfans.com. Sort of kind of clicky baity, but I wanted to get into it. And it says here that Adrian Newey admitted that Red Bull have taken a big gamble on their approach to the 2024 season. Now, heading into the new campaign, the team, as we know, were heavy favourites, once again, having won the last 3 drivers at World Championships, and particularly 22 and 23, almost a walkover. Well, 2023 definitely was. Red Bull have so far played up to their tag, dominating those first 2 races of the year. That's Bahrain and Saudi Arabia, with 1-2 finishes. But Red Bull raised eyebrows after revealing what looked like a slight departure when releasing their car, so to speak. So the RB19 is quite different to the new car, and it's lost one of the as we know, the RB19 lost just 1 race last year. The RB20 appears to borrow ideas from their rival Mercedes in regards to this zero pod concept. However, according to Adrian Newey, the car is still part of the development path of the RB19, having ruled out going into a brand new concept. But Newey on the Talking Bull podcast recently said last year's car was an evolution of 22, and its main points being, of course, the normal winter developments. We had aerodynamics, so understanding what we needed to do with the suspension, which is key to these cars, to try and use that suspension to try and improve the car overall, and getting weight out of it, because we never got the weight to the weight limit in 22. That's scary, isn't it? Because I'm sure some other teams did. But he said that there is that question: should we have a group that goes out and looks at completely left field ideas, or do we keep developing the route we've taken? He asked. We're resource limited. So he said, so we can't do everything and we can't look at every avenue. So we've taken the approach of developing what we've got. Hopefully that will be the prudent and correct decision. Yeah. So, I mean, there we go. And I think what Adrian Newey is saying with there, it is kind of like a risk. A lot of people have suggested that Red Bull have taken this more extreme development path. I know he says it's evolution, not revolution, but it does. The 22 and the 23 Red Bull cars look very similar. This does look very different, so it does look a lot different. Therefore, yes, it probably was a risk, but Red Bull realised that they had to do something big, because they were figuring that the teams are going to do absolutely their best to try and catch up during the winter, which they have caught up if Red Bull were still using the RB19, but they're not. They're using the RB20. Anyway, that's pretty much it. We'll have our Australian Grand Prix preview sometime tomorrow, as in Monday the 18th of March. If you like what you see, subscribe. That will be great. So stay tuned for more F1 news, for more rally news, BTCC news, and the odd bit of gameplay. We're currently doing the Martin Brundle tour of 1995, if you want to enjoy that. Speak to you soon.